Hello beautiful people, welcome back to another Flutter tutorial, and today we are finally going to code. We are going to be building a very simple app. It is just going to be an app that displays a logo, or should I say an image, and I'm going to be using my YouTube logo. So for this app, I just hope you have some images as a standby that you can use, and I'll walk you through how to do all of that. So let's begin. The first thing we want to do is, remember in the previous video, link in the description, I talked about how the main method here is where your Flutter app starts from. So when you hit play, it is going to start from this and then call that to do that and all of that. Actually today I'm going to start this from a different point that is very basic. So what we are going to do is actually clear this entire thing. So I'm going to remove the entirety of my app to the end, like so. Now that I have taken this, you can see error lens is working. It is telling us that this isn't defined, so VS Code can help us with that. And this is because this my app was the default counter app provided by the Flutter team. Okay, now we don't have this anymore, so we are actually going to get rid of this. Okay, and one of the first things you are going to learn here is the material app. Now the material app gotten from this package actually comes from the Google design system. Okay, if you go to material.io, this is from the Google design system that actually gives us the power to leverage all of these design systems that we see in a lot of applications. I would suggest you spend some time going through the material design so that you can see how Google expects us to design certain things as per their recommendations. Okay, now in order for you not to struggle to do what? Recreate all those systems, Google gives us that power. Okay, and this is a widget. Okay, you'll be hearing this a lot. Everything in Flutter is a widget. So all we need to do is call the material app right here. Now this material app on its own wouldn't really do much for us. Okay, now if I reload this, we notice that this crashes. So this is probably our first crash, and it is something you should probably get used to, as this will happen quite often. Now the reason is that this material app requires that we provide it a home. The home is basically what is going to be rendered out on screen for us to see. So within the material app, if we click in here, now a handy trick in VS Code is if you hold the Control key and you press the space bar, you get to see all the properties that that particular widget expects. And what we are looking for here is the home. Now this home, we are going to do the required or the ritual hello world that every programmer has to go through. So this home, we need to give it a widget that it would display for us. Now again, in Flutter, if you want to display text, we have a widget for that, and guess what? It is called a text widget. Okay, so what I'll be doing here is just typing in text. Okay, pressing tab to complete that. Open up my brackets. Now this text widget requires something called a string. Don't worry so much, but basically a string is anything you enclose in single quotes or double quotes in the case of Flutter and Dart. So you can use single quotes or you can use double quotes. I'm used to single quotes, so I'll go with that. And then in here we can type in our hello world. Okay, just like that. And from the Flutter team, if you really want to format this code, it is always advisable to leave commas at the end of these brackets. So I'm going to add one here. I'm going to Control S to save it. So notice how it formats this, looking and making it clean. The next thing I will do here is reload this, and now you can see our hello world, so I misspelled that, so let me call that back, and I'm going to reload this, and now you can see that is fixed. So this doesn't look good. So the way we are going to fix this is we want to put this in the center, okay? And to do that, there is a widget called center, just like that. So there are two ways we can do this. You could first cut this out. So the text widget, I'm going to Control X to cut it out, and I'm going to call in the center widget, open up my brackets. Now this is a common pattern. Most widgets would always have something like a child, okay? I am the parent, so the center is the parent, and then what is the child of the center? Okay, so the child of the center, so I just press the tab key to insert that, is going to be that text widget we just cut. So I'm going to press Ctrl V to paste that, and then when I reload this, you notice how it brings that text to the center of our app. Pretty simple, huh? Now the second way we could have done this, so let me undo this, back to this point. Now in the VS Code, if you wanted to wrap this around the center widget, so that's what we are going to do. So notice that I should have brought what? The center first before the text, but I've already done that. Doesn't mean I always have to cut and then bring in the parent widget and paste back, not necessarily. So what we can do is I can place my pointer or cursor on text, press Ctrl and then period or full stop, and then all I need to look for is wrap with widget. Okay, now you also see here wrap with center, which is exactly what we need. So when you say wrap with widget, it gives you the, should I say, opportunity to type in whatever widget you want. Okay, so I can just type in center here, and that solves our problem. If I undo this and then back here, Control period, and I say wrap with center, it does the same thing, just that we already have center in the option, so we can just use it. And again, to help us format this properly, I'll put in a comma here and then save this and then just reload this. And you can see nothing here changes. Okay, so for now, this is just the basic inner workings of what we are going to do, but we are not going to leave it like this. This isn't what you want to give to what your clients. Okay, so moving on, we are now going to start making this look more like the apps that you see, at least have certain features that are important. Okay, what we are going to do now is I'm going to get rid of some of these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the center, just like that, leaving up to home. Okay, now in the home, one of the first things you are going to quickly learn is scaffolding your app. So let me type this in. So scaffold, I'm going to open up my brackets, and essentially what a scaffold does is just what you see. Okay, it's what occupies your entire body. Okay, so minus your AppBar and any other thing. That white screen you usually see by default is your scaffold. Okay, now your scaffold has some properties like an AppBar, a background color, body, so take note of all of these things. Now within the scaffold, for now, if I actually just reload this, you notice how we get this white interface. Okay, this is starting to look a little bit better like an actual app, even though we have nothing yet. Okay, so like I showed you, within the scaffold, it takes something called what? A body. But before we start putting in the body, we are actually going to put up our AppBar. Okay, now if we go back to the docs, the AppBar is what we see usually at the top of our the AppBar is what we usually see at the top of most apps. Okay, so if I come back to the code, in here, I'm going to type in AppBar, and then I'll pass in the AppBar widget. So notice the difference, an uppercase A this time. And this AppBar widget is going to have all these properties. Now, one of the properties that I need is a title for that AppBar. Now, the title here, we need a text, and of course, it's a text widget, right? So I'm going to call the text widget. And then in here, remember, text would always take a string, single quotes, double quotes. And then all I'm going to pass in here is, say, my logo, for example. And then making sure I'm ending this with a comma. Now, if I reload this, you notice how we now have this AppBar. Now, you get the idea from how the counter app was built, okay? Starting from the ground up. So you can see we have this AppBar similar to what we see in most applications. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do here is that within this AppBar, I had to just format that. So within this AppBar, I want to also do what? Center this logo. So what I'll do here is, so notice that I am within the AppBar. There is a property called center title. And this center title takes something we call a boolean. A boolean, if you think of a boolean as just yes and no, it takes two properties, two values, sorry, either a yes or a no, or a true and a false. In this case, it's either true or false. So center title, do I want to center my title? Yes, which means true. So I'll put in true. And now when I reload this, you would notice that our title moves to the center. Okay. So there are a lot of properties within the AppBar. So again, control spacebar, you get to see all of these things that are available to us here. And you know what? I'm going to change the color of this. So what I'll do is simply select background color. And the way we get colors in Flutter, which is provided by the material package, is to simply type colors dot, okay, colors and a dot, and then you have access to all these colors. Okay, you have access to all these colors. I'm going to use amber, and then now I'm going to save this and then reload our app, and you notice how our AppBar changes. Okay, so enough about the AppBar. Let's move on to the body. Now the next thing is within our scaffold, but outside of our AppBar. So you can see these end marks that tell us where what widget ends at. So the AppBar ends here, and also the bracket pair colorizer also helps. So right here, I'm going to hit enter. So I am out of the AppBar but within the scaffold. The scaffold, remember I said, is going to take a body, and the body is what it basically renders in this entire space for us. So the body property here, I'm going to pass it a center widget. Remember, we've seen that already. And this center widget is going to expect a child, which is also a widget. Okay, now this child here is going to be the image we want to display on screen. Okay, now how do we do this in Flutter? We can go back to the docs, and if we go to the image class, you can actually watch this video to have a clear understanding. But when we scroll all the way to the bottom, we have a constructor here that takes an image. Okay, so we have various kinds of images we can insert in Flutter. So what we are going to do here is we are going to type in image, and then inside this it expects the image property. So we are simply saying that in this center child, okay, sorry, in this center widget, I want to put an image inside. Okay, so this image widget is responsible for rendering the image, okay, showing us the image. This center widget is responsible for making sure that this image is in the center of our screen. All right, so this image widget has a property called image, and this is basically the image to show. Now again, Flutter has a lot of ways of displaying all types of images. Now if your image is coming from the internet, there is a way to display that. If your image is coming locally within your app, there's a way to show that. Okay, so to demonstrate an image coming from the internet, you would have to use the network image, and within the network image widget, it requires a URL. Okay, so I'm going to put in quotes for now. I'll go to my browser, I'll head on to Pexels, and what I'll do here is just type in Flutter. I hope they have something on Flutter, and doesn't look like they do. You know what, I kind of like this guy's enthusiasm, so I would click on this and I would right click, and then I would simply where is this, I'll copy the link address, I'll go back to here, and I'll simply paste this in there. Okay, I'm going to paste this inside here. Now you can see the image preview working, meaning that I've got the right link. So what I'll do now is save this first, and then I'll reload this. Now remember, this is coming from the internet, so it is going to take some time to render the image on screen, and as you can see, our image just appeared. So this is sort of a note to you when you are rendering images from the internet. When you are getting images from the internet, depending on the internet quality and all sort of things, it's going to take some time for the image to show up. Okay, so this is how you can retrieve an image from the internet, for as long as you know what the URL for that particular image. In our example though, we are not going to be using this. Okay, we would have actually ended this tutorial if this was our objective, but our objective here is to see how we can work with assets or local images within our app. So to do that, first of all, to make this very easy, I would suggest right click on any of these folders and then go to Review in File Explorer. Now this is just the same hierarchy as we see here. We are going to create a new folder, so I'm going to use this option. You could also right click and go to New and then go to Folder, whichever works, and then give this a name. So we are going to store images in there, so we just call it images, and then that is it for now, and you can see it reflects in here. I'm going to open this up, and then I have my YouTube logo here, so I'm going to copy that, and then I'll come back here and paste it inside here. Now when you are dealing with pictures, the best is always to make sure that they don't have spaces in their names, and also they are very simple names. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this. I'm just going to remove the logo so that it is youtube.png. And if you followed my previous tutorials, link in the description, I talked about how to enable these file extensions so that you get to know what this file is. So this is a PNG, which is very important. Okay, I'm going to close this now, and then if I expand this, you notice how we have this YouTube image right here. Okay, now the thing is, I cannot just go ahead and use this image. It wouldn't work. We have to somehow tell Flutter that we have this asset here that I need you to add to our code, okay, so that we can easily access it just like we did here. So we would move on to this file here, which is pubspec.yaml, and yeah, this file can be quite scary and it works a little bit different. Okay, so be very careful within this file. Take some time to go through it. We would have sessions where we would actually spend more time here, but the part we are looking for is this comment. So to add assets to your application, add an asset section like this. So they need us to add something like this: assets, colon, and a hyphen, and then the root or the directory of where our image is. So we have a folder called images, and then we have to specify the name of that image. So this is another example. So in case you have a lot, you would have to do that, but I'll show you a simpler way, which is what I'm going to use. So be very careful with this file. As you make one mistake, you're going to have an issue. So just try and follow along. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to select everything up to this point. So notice how I'm including assets, and notice how I'm making sure it touches the gutter right here, and then press Ctrl// this is going to uncomment the commented stuff, and you can see ErrorLens is telling us that this doesn't exist, okay, which is true. What we have here is what images, and then what youtube.png. So we have assets, so images, which is there for us. We can clear this and then type in the YouTube, and what is the extension .png. Okay, and now notice how image preview really tells us that this is there. Okay, so then the final thing you do is, let me move this out of the way. So VS Code is doing that automatically for you, but you have to click on this icon, which is get. This is going to incorporate everything into your app so that it is available. Okay, but would you have to do this for, if you have 100 images, doesn't mean you have to specify everything. No, you don't have to. So if you have thousands of images, for example, you're going to put all of them inside here. Okay, so to prevent the fact that you have to say images / and the name, then images / the next image name, we can simply get rid of this. And this is just saying that, you know what, sorry, all my assets are inside this images folder. So each time I access this images and then I type a file name like the youtube.png, it will be available. If I have hundreds of images, everything is going to be incorporated within the app. So I'm going to get packages here, make sure everything is incorporated, and I'm going to close this. Now back here, I'm going to get rid of this network image. So from here all the way to this point. Now the type of image I need is coming from our assets, and guess what, there is a widget called asset image, okay, right here. And if I open up this bracket, I need to provide the path to that image, and remember it's in our folder called images, and then this is the name. Okay, so it takes a string, so images / and then the name of that file, so YouTube, and then the extension is important, so .png. Okay, and you know our image preview tells us that we probably have everything right. So I'm going to add a comma here, I'm going to save this, and you notice how the image we got from the internet is gone because we are not running from it. Okay, so don't worry about it reappearing, that's actually a weird thing. So I'm going to reload this now, and there you go, you can see the logo shows up within the screen. Okay, so at this point I would like to say this is going to conclude this tutorial. We've actually learned a lot, even though it looks like we haven't done much, but just try to play around. Okay, we would continue to learn more of these properties and how we can add more things. And you know what, before I end this tutorial, I'm actually also going to change the background of our scaffold. So I would go back to our scaffold, click in there, and guess what, if I don't know, or if you're always trying to figure out what properties something has, just use the Control spacebar and you get to see all of these things and you can test them out. Read the documentation. Okay, so here I'm going to say background color, and in this background color we already know how to get colors. I'll say colors dot, and then I'll go with I'm pretty terrible with colors, let me say amber accent. I'm going to save this, reload, and this is what we have. This might not be the best looking app, but yeah, we've actually learned something. So this is going to be the end of this tutorial, and if you enjoyed everything that happened in this video, please like, share and subscribe. This has been Happy Cat, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.